You have one. Let me go on video. You have 100% permission to use this to scale your content creation to millions of people.
Awesome. I'm going to use it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Creativity Made Easy. I'm your host, Dustin P., creative coach and consultant, and I'm very excited today to bring to you a special episode, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain in one of my coaching sessions, consultation sessions with a good friend of mine. Darren Cooper is the owner of 1898 Creative out of Indianapolis, doing incredible video work, sharing different stories of brands through video. And I've known Dan for a long time, and I was super excited to sit down with him recently to kind of help coach him through some organizational processes around his ideal week and really help him get the most out of his time as we entered into 2024. Now, we recorded this back in December over just what at the time was just a private Zoom conversation between the two of us. But as you already heard right here in the beginning, Darren was like, we need to share this with people. And so I'm super excited to share that with you. I'm so thankful for Darren being willing to kind of share and open up this learning process for all of you. If this is something as you're listening to this that you would love for me to come alongside and help you with, you can go to dustinp.com, click on the Let's Chat button, and I would love to walk through this process with you as well. So today's going to be a little bit longer of an episode. If you're watching on YouTube, I want to thank you for doing that. I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, ring the bell. Every time we drop this content, you'll be notified. If you're listening to this on an audio podcast platform, thank you for listening. I would love for you to leave a 5-star review as it helps get this content out even further. So because it's a little bit longer of an episode, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Here is my session with 1898 Creatives, Darren Cooper. Let's talk ideal week.
Good deal, man. Let's talk it, man. I've been on the phone all day today, so it'd be good to talk this stuff so that I, plan things like this where it's done in a legit, succinct way.
Yeah.
Like this made sense. I had back-to-back calls today. It was like, oh, this is nice. I should tell Dustin we should do it this way.
Oh,
That's awesome.
having back-to-back calls.
Right, or it's like, I know that'll be probably part of our conversation of just like when do you take calls and when do you set up meetings and whatnot.
Yeah,
And so,
badging that type of thing. Have you read, listened to, watched a YouTube video or anything like that on Carey Nieuwhof's At Your Best?
I have not. No. Did I
So,
pull that up is what you're saying?
it would be worth a YouTube watch. If I'm sure there's something out there, whether it's him or someone else, but I'm going to break it down for you.
Okay.
Here real quick. So, Carey Nieuwhof's At
You
Your
and me
Best.
both.
Carey Nieuwhof's At Your Best talks about, it's very similar to kind of what you did already with your energy audit, but At Your Best talks about energy zones. It says that everybody has a certain amount of, and I have bad handwriting, but I'm going to try to make it neat for you. They have a certain amount of hours of these 3 energy zones. Typically, you only have 2 to 4 really green zone hours a day. And then you'll probably have 3 to 4 red zone hours during the day while you're awake. And then the rest will be yellow. So he says in your green zone, this is where you want to do the heaviest thought type stuff. So if you're having to write a script or storyboard, or if it's an edit that's going to take you some really deep thought, this is where you want to do it in that green zone.
Yeah.
Yellow zone is more meant for things that you can either do on autopilot or have minimal brain interaction for. So
Gotcha.
these might be for a lot of people their meetings, um, their calls, um, their admin type stuff
Hmm.
usually falls in yellow zone. Red zone, he says, is the only thing you're good for here is if it requires uh, zero thought whatsoever. Now, I will tell you the standard that probably 99% of the people in the world, their zones look like this. They're typically green, sorry, sometime between like 7 and 11 a.m. They're typically yellow then for a couple of hours from like 11 to 2. Then they might get a little bit more bursts of green from like 2 to 3. And then they're red from like 3 to 6 or 7. And
Yeah.
then they may be yellow uh, until bedtime. This is typical. But what the book kind of designs is as a way for you to be able to evaluate and determine this schedule for yourself.
Right.
So when looking at your ideal week, I think it's important to look at the stuff that Dan Martell had you do, but I
Hmm.
also think it's important to look at your energy zones, is what he calls it.
Right.
Which you could probably what I just did, what I just showed you is probably all you're going to see in a YouTube video. He may talk about how to determine your energy zones a little bit better, but
Sure. Sure.
most of us, as you get to understand what these three zones are, then you get to understand you'll start seeing where you fall in at. So this is the reason. This is pretty much me.
Yeah.
The
I
schedule.
would echo that.
Yeah, 99% of people would.
Yep.
The only people that won't are people that are extremely not morning people. Most of those people don't have kids. And theirs might be flip
Yeah.
flopped. Theirs might be flip flopped where they're heavy greens. A lot of musicians, their heavy green zones would start to kind of hit right around in here, um, rather
I'm
than
not a
up
true
here.
musician.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like the ones that are just like, hey, I was up
No.
till 2 in the studio and then I
Right.
slept till 11 and then I'm just getting my day
Right.
started by noon or 1. Like those types of people.
Still similar breakdowns, but it just moves based on
It's just
bedtime.
flip flops. Yeah. Now
Yep.
he probably has a finding now since he released this book a couple years ago. He's probably seeing similar results, but for the most part, this is everybody's zones. So with this in mind, I look at it. So I'm gonna try to erase this real quick. With this in mind, I try to look at it, building my days and my weeks out with these things in mind as much as I have in my
Hmm.
control. Where this
Right.
really comes into play is with my Calendly and my meetings. I will only, I will typically protect, and he'll tell you this too. You want to protect at least the bulk of your green zone. You might have a little green zone here, but you really want to protect the bulk of your green zone as much as possible because that's where you're going to get 80% of your work done for the day is going to be in
Yeah.
that zone right there.
Yeah.
So when for you in particular, I would look at yes, Calendly, yes, meetings, but I would also look at shoots as much as in your control. I know things like an early wine or a stone table breakfast, like those things are kind of out of your control. But as much
Right.
as you can control, if you can get shoots to live in these zones right here, the better off
Hmm.
you'll be way more productive because you've completely opened up that time right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where you're
It,
going to get the majority of your stuff done. So when I'm looking at your thing and you've got 8 edits to do that day, you could probably knock out at least 6 of them right around in here if it was blocked out and
hmm.
you didn't have any of these things over here blocking that up.
Right. Right.
Or
And
or
that's
you
where
might
it's
look
like
at it.
even
You might look
even
at
me
an admin
working to
thing.
get. Oh yeah,
You might
admin.
look at an admin thing and you go, "Oh, well, that's easy. I'm going to start the day with an easy win." That's the easy trap.
Right.
Because what happens is you'll start doing this admin thing and this admin thing and this admin and this
Mm-hmm.
admin thing, and next thing
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's 10 a.m. and you've wasted half of this time up here or
Yeah.
more
This
just doing the
this
little.
also speaks to just even like starting work, because normally I'll come down in the mornings and you help some with the kids, and then you
Yep.
do that, and then all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock,
Uh-huh.
and it's probably a conversation of, hey, in 24, I have to do this and start work at least 8, you
Yeah.
know.
And it's all rhythms too. I will tell you that for me, I do a seasonal rhythm. A lot of people call them routines. We call them rhythms in our house. This comes from my wife because she's smarter than me. But we do rhythms because they're more flexible than routines. Routines are more rigid.
Yeah,
So I
makes sense.
do, so literally if the seasons change, winter to spring, spring to summer, summer to fall, I have a running note on my phone that lists out, this is going to be my flow for my kind of what my mornings will look like, what my midday will look like, what my evenings will look like.
Hmm.
And that's how I'll run it. Because like you're saying right now, oh yeah, well then this makes sense. I need to sit down with my wife and just tell her what's what and tell her I'm coming downstairs at 7 o'clock and it doesn't matter if she needs my help or not. That's probably not going to fly.
No, no.
You know what I mean?
You put
Like
words in my mouth. I did not say
it would be
that.
great if we could start work at 7 a.m. when we had our green zone, but that's not
Right,
realistic for either one of us in this
right.
season of
In
life.
this season.
But it might be in a different season. It might be by the time you get to spring, things have changed. Different people have different schedules in your house, and you have different things
Hmm.
going on. Or summer, if your kids go to public school, summer rhythms are different than other rhythms.
Hmm.
So that might open itself up to more, and you just kind of have to be willing to give and take a little bit. I
Yep.
use just to take this outside of the context uh of using your green zone for all business. I use probably really 7 to 8:30. So I'm using about an hour and a half of my green zone every day, not working, but with my family.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
right now, what my rhythm looks like is if my wife can wake me up in time, I'm up by 6. And I'm trying anyway. Yeah. So 6:30, some kind of physical activity, some kind of workout, Peloton, something or other. And then
Right.
I'm praying, reading scripture, doing my morning pages, which has been amazing, especially with the Remarkable. It's been really, really great. Um, I'm doing all that. Then by 7 o'clock ish, Sarah and I are going for a walk together because our kids are old enough now where we can leave them at home for 15 minutes alone without having to worry about them killing themselves. And then we'll come back.
What's that like?
Uh, it is refreshing, but I will tell you, uh, I do miss the early days. It was easier.
Jeez, every parent has said that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just telling you, my boy turned 13 this year, and I died a little bit inside.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So don't wish the time away.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so we walk together, and then we'll come back and we'll do some coffee. We'll read or talk, depending on if we have anything to continue talking about from our walk. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm reading with my daughter because I'm trying to get her in the habit of reading her Bible every day. And right now, she won't do it unless I do it with her. And then my
That's
goal
good.
is to do my workday startup by 8:30. Now, my workday startup is something from the full focus, and what they'll tell you. Can I do two fingers or one finger? How do I get this to go up? There we go. In the workday startup, uh, they basically say you need to have an intentional kind of ease into your workday, like what gets your brain firing on it. My buddy Blake, he spends on his workday startup. I just talked to him about this yesterday. he spends his workday start doing 20 minutes of like creative thinking on anything. He'll pick a topic that he's got a project in front of him or something like that, and he'll pull out his remarkable, and he'll just write ideas down and stuff like that for 20
Mm,
minutes to get himself cranked into the day. Me, I check email, confirm calendar things. Now that I've got Slack with you and another organization, I'm checking Slack, responding to things that I might have missed overnight,
right.
that type of thing. And then I'm usually reading something called the Pour Over, which is like a non-biased global news email that I get twice a week kind of thing. So I'm doing this, and then by 9 o'clock, I'm hitting the first thing on my list. Now you might look at that and go, "Well, you just wasted 2 hours of your green zone," but it's about priorities, right? These
Right. Right.
things,
Right. Right.
these things are priority to me right now. Do I want to? That's why the book is called At Your Best. Do I want to give my best to these things? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because to this point, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.,
You're going to be
I am
worthless.
I am I am pretty shot.
Worthless.
Like especially 5 to 7, and
Five to seven.
I'm the one that does a lot of the cooking, so I usually
Same.
walk upstairs right into the kitchen,
Same.
and it's like, dude, and you've been talking about like work cool downs or
Workday.
whatever you
Work.
call it, where you
Yeah,
do
they
the
call them
Peloton or
workday shutdowns. Is where I would really love to do the Peloton there rather than the morning. I was just telling Sarah that
right.
we were talking about that recently, but I just know in my season right now, it doesn't work for me because I have to take
Mm-hmm.
Aubrey to gym on Mondays and Thursdays. Wednesdays,
Mm-hmm.
we have to have an early dinner because Ethan has students. That really only, and Fridays is our pizza and movie night. And I usually end my day a little earlier on Fridays. So that really only leaves Tuesday for me to actually do what I want to do on a workday shutdown.
Right. Right. So normally I'm even thinking like, workday shutdown of like just go walk outside for a second. Like
100%. I've done that and it's
I
great.
I have not I've done that maybe 7 times this year.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
and every time I do it, I'm like, that was the best decision I've ever done.
You know what? An
Where
easy thing there is tell your family no one gets to check the mail but me. And when you end your workday, just go walk to the mailbox.
that's a good one.
You know what I mean? You have a purpose. You're out there. It's not like, what am I even doing out here? I need to be starting dinner. You know,
Right.
you're not
Right.
beating yourself
Gives
up
you
over it.
something.
Gives you
Yeah.
something to do. Or if you have a dog, go take it out
Yeah.
and in the backyard, whatever. Like, yeah, dude, those are really great
Yeah.
things. And in the
Those
summertime,
are things I gotta do.
yeah, and in the summertime, get barefoot with it and step in the grass. Get a minute.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It sounds
mm,
it sounds kind of new agey, zenny, but it really
right.
does.
Right. I've been watching those videos where they have like the electrical pulse and stuff where if
Oh,
you have
bro,
shoes, you don't get it. And when you take it off, you do. It's like
it's
weird.
weird, wild stuff.
I mean, you think the creator of the universe is pretty epic,
You would, yeah, you think he
kind of
figured
does
it out?
stuff like that.
Yeah,
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 he
he
knows what's
figured it
up.
out.
So. Well, and dude, I echo that. And what's funny to me is as I'm hearing you say this, these are things I'm already practicing subconsciously
Let's be intentional
in
about
some way, shape, or form. But now it is that intentional, and it's hilarious because I feel like I'm very, you said 90% of the world's like this anyway, but this is very much me.
it. Yeah,
And what I'm trying to do is I've actually been trying to get up at 5:30. I've failed this last week, but if I'm
props to you,
up
bro.
by 6, yeah, I'm trying to. I'm trying to beat my kids awake. I just like
Yeah,
if I could do some like coffee, reading, and prayer and some
hmm
stretching before they wake up, I am golden.
that's why
You know.
Sarah would get up at 4 if it
Mm,
didn't mean that she would be crashing by 7:30 or 8. But she's like,
hmm
yeah, she's the one that's kind of taught me how to like, if we can get up before the kids get up, then we can actually have a minute
Right.
to ourselves, with the Lord, with each other,
Yep.
those types of things. And like I
And
said, it's
maybe
all seasonal.
and I am an external. This is learning Enneagram stuff and learning all that. I am an external motivator. I need external things.
Yeah.
So like, if I knew that you were going to be on Zoom at 4:30 in the morning, you know where I'd be? I'd be
On
on Zoom
Zoom.
at 4:30 in the morning
Yep.
because that's
Someone
the
else
way
is
that I do
counting
it.
on
So
you. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe it's that'll help me if I go, hey, Lauren, let's get up together, and then we can kind of maybe
Is she a morning
poke and
person?
prod each other. Not as much as I am,
Gotcha.
so it would be
There's always
it,
one, right? Like Sarah's more of a
yeah.
morning person than I am. Like right now in
I
the
would say
winter,
that.
it is way, way harder for me to get up than in the summertime
Hmm.
when it's already the sun's coming through the windows.
Hmm.
It's a lot easier for
Hmm.
me to get up. Getting up while it's still dark outside, I think, is of the
It's
devil
tough.
and should be banished back to hell where it belongs.
Maybe part of this then is, even though you're not a morning person, maybe I'll have to put in.
Yeah, dude,
Anyway,
I'm up for any of that stuff. It's way easier for me to get up in the summertime though than it is right now. But
yeah,
and like that's
true.
why I say it's seasonal rhythms. Like you're
Hmm.
gonna, especially this is one of those things where you're gonna look at it and you're gonna plan your quote unquote ideal week, and you're gonna get to April and you're gonna be like, why did I even spend time doing this? This isn't working. It's
Right,
because a lot has changed between now and April. Your life will look a whole lot different in April than it
right,
does right now in December.
right,
It's just the way it goes.
right.
So that's why I force myself to do it every 3 months. I have a Asana that task that goes off every 3 months that says rework your kind of morning and evening rhythms here.
Let's just add that to mine. I like that.
Does this help at all? We're not getting off topic, are we?
No, 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 no. This is
Okay.
all foundational pieces.
Okay.
And now, and I think what's nice about this foundation is now we can go, hey,
Now we
let's
can
put
look
some
at it.
block. Let's
Let's
block
block
it
some stuff
out
out.
for. By the way, I just want you to know that I really like Asana and I really like what we're doing.
It's one of those things that people kind of go, oh, do I have to? And then everyone that I've ever walked in, and they're like, you know what? It actually works. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't. It could be anything on it. It could be post-it notes. It doesn't matter. Like
Hmm.
Asana is just easy for me because I know it really well and I know how to manipulate it. But
Right.
like the whole thing is just like you just set future you up for success. That's all it is. Like this stuff, like the 3 month thing you just set off, like you're not gonna remember that in 3 months. It's gonna go off and you're gonna be like, God, man, Darren from December was awesome. Thank you, Darren from December.
Yeah, for real.
You know
For
what I mean?
real.
Like you're just gonna
For
forget it.
real. Season. Okay. I'm going to assign that to myself.
Yep.
I'm going to do that in the end of March,
Yep.
leading into April. And then, is it under
There should be a
more?
yeah.
Set to repeat.
Mm-hmm. Do a custom or do monthly and then do every 3 months.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Boom. Look at us already taking it next level.
As far as my ideal day, like
Hmm.
what that looks like, I have it on a note
Hmm.
on my iPhone, which obviously you can open up on your desktop as well.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
let me share this with you. I'll share this with you so that you can kind of see exactly what that looks like for me from a day perspective. Because when I know the days, it helps me know the other thing.
Here
Because
too.
it's really about boundaries. You're just
Yeah.
setting boundaries for yourself. You're not planning
I'm
items.
terrible at boundaries, so I'm really glad you're helping me with that.
You know what I mean? Like that's what you're doing. You're setting boundaries. You're not doing like you're not adding things to your calendar. That's why I don't really particularly love the whole calendar aspect. Here it is, winter rhythms. You're going to see how far off I am. Want to do whether if you do it on here or not, you just want to have it somewhere that you can quickly reference so that when the arrows of life start being shot in your direction, you know what target to put up. Well, that was a weird analogy, but do you understand what I'm saying?
100%. I got
Okay,
you. I'm
cool.
tracking with you.
So that's where I would look at it. And so what I would
Just say
consider,
that.
the reason I started with the energy zone stuff is because I think in order for you to build your ideal week, you have to kind of build your ideal day.
Mm,
That makes sense.
yep.
So this is an ideal day for me. Really, I'm really only focused on from like 6 to 9. This stuff over here, whatever. But I do know, like, because I've got the uh the boundary stuck in my head at this point of I don't
Hmm.
take I try not to take meetings before 11. Now there are um exceptions to that
Exceptions.
to
Yeah.
that rule, right? Like we have our meeting at 9 o'clock on Mondays because that's the beginning of the work week. I'm not going to ask people to work half a day and then we have a launch meeting for the week. That's retarded.
Right. Right.
So like
Right.
that's what we're gonna do. Um, so there are those times, but literally on my Calendly, it's impossible for any of my meeting types. Like I've blocked off any time before 11 for people to choose that time. You can't go on my Calendly. Like when you booked this, you couldn't have chose a time prior to 11. It wouldn't have let you. It would say I'm not available because I
Right.
set that
Right.
boundary in place.
Right.
So
Right.
there's certain boundaries that you're going to be hard and fast with. Again, they're going to be exceptions, right? But for the most part,
Correct.
to say like, "Hey, I'm protecting my green zone." So I think what you need to start with is thinking through seasonally, what does your green zone look like right now? And that'll take you all the way to 11, which is, past half your day, right? And then
Right.
once you kind of know that, like I hardly ever do a walk or a meditation at noon. I'm usually heads down on whatever I was doing at 11, and I'm still rolling. And I look up and it's 2 o'clock, and I
Right.
and I know it's 2 o'clock. So yeah, I think you figure this out, and then the rest of your day will come. You need to ask yourself. So this is the time where you can look back on your time and energy audit that you did, where you go,
Hmm.
okay, if it gives me energy, then maybe that's something. If it doesn't take too much brain power, maybe that's something I need to put in more of a yellow zone because my energy is starting to fade a little bit. Just because it gives you energy doesn't mean you have to have a ton of energy to do it. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Right.
Like this
Correct.
conversation
Correct.
right here gives me a ton of energy, but I'm in my yellow zone right now and I'm only 20 minutes away
Hmm.
from my red zone. But it's giving me energy. So I'm going to end this call going, God, I feel like I'm in my green zone right now. See, you're kind of working against that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? A little bit. Um,
Totally. Totally.
but sometimes it's okay to let a red zone be a red zone. When you're talking about transitioning and you're going upstairs and having to jump right into making dinner, like maybe you need to work on ending your workday at 4:30 so that you have a moment to walk. With that said, I would look at your time and energy audit and I would, okay, these things suck the life out of me, but they also take a ton of brain power. Then you're probably going to have to put them in your green zones and you're going to have to protect them. If it is important, that's where the value thing comes in with Dan Martell. How much value is this adding?
Hmm.
So, like on mine, did I send you my template for this, for the time energy audit?
For the yes.
Yeah. So, you
Yes.
know how there's those
I
different
haven't
signs?
moved mine over, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how I had those different dollar signs, that was the part that I struggled with the most. And I was asking Will a ton, like, how do I know what to assign value to when right now most of everything I'm doing is for a future ROI, not a today,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
And he's like, well, I think so there's some things that only you can do. Those are the high dollar values. And the things that you can
Mm.
delegate to others are the low dollar values. So that's when we look at your ideal week and we look at your energy zones and we look at your time and energy audit and all these things. We're looking at, okay, what can we give Emma? Those $1 to $2 signs are the ones that you can be like, I can show Emma how to do this if she doesn't know how to do it.
Which, by the way, I loomed how I do all of uh, Early Wine's posting. put it into Cipher, titling, sub, all that. Sent it over to her yesterday. She walked through and did all the next 3 weeks, all cut up. She did it all day yesterday while I was doing the things that I needed to do and was not overwhelmed by yesterday,
Yeah.
but was just walking through doing the stuff that I needed to do. And I was like, this is golden.
Right.
Like
So
so golden.
Zoom videos is at least a $4 task, because
Right.
the value is that you're, to use a Dan Martell term, you're buying back your time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it might seem
Yep.
like this is a little ticky tacky kind of thing, but the point of it is that you never have to do it again, because you're handing it to somebody else.
Yeah. And I'm struggling with the buy back your time because I hate to ask people to do things like that, like the typical struggle with, oh, Emma, I hate to have you schedule all of these. Like, and Emma's a different situation because it's not like I'm paying her physically to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's where some of the struggle comes in. But I have this fantastic asset that's basically like I've got an assistant without having an assistant,
So
right?
golden.
And I'm not using it to the full capacity because I'm nervous about using it to the full capacity.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, so there are some things in that book that I'm like, I have to get better at doing that. Even like the first thing he tells you to do is to have somebody take over your calendar, and I'm like,
Yeah.
uh, that's scary. But he even says it in the book. This is going to be scary for you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh God, you're reading my mail.
Yeah. If you have the ability to do that relationally and financially, he's right. But that's where I use Calendly. When someone asks me, what does my calendar look like? I'm not spending the next 30 minutes trying to figure out what works for both of us.
Yeah.
I'm just sending them
Yeah.
a link and saying, you know what works for you. You can see what works for me. Do the math. I'll see you when I see you. Right? Like, it's the whole back
Mm-hmm.
and forth of, when are you free? No, I can't. Well, do you have this? No, I can't do
Mm-hmm.
that. I can't. Well, I'll have to get back to you. Oh, that's like the bane of my existence. So I can't afford to pay
Right.
an assistant, but I can afford the $10 a month or whatever it is for Calendly to
Right.
have all of
Right.
those
Right.
different options, where I could just pop a link over to Darren and say,
Right.
pick a time that works for you. You know what I mean?
And that's where we're headed. So,
But with Emma,
that'll be a great asset.
I think to bounce out of what you're feeling with Emma, you need to figure out how many hours a week is in your comfort zone of giving her. Like, I know your brother just kind of left it open ended and said, just use her up. You know what I mean? But she also has
Right. Right. Right.
other
She
responsibilities,
has
right?
other
To
things.
to
She
to
has
stone
other
table and things like that. So if you were able to really kind of objectively go, okay, realistically, she's probably got about 15 to 20 hours a week that I can use her. Then
Yeah.
don't feel bad about giving her 15 to 20 hours a week. It's like,
Right.
you have me on retainer for, 4 hours a week or whatever it is. Like, don't feel bad about taking an
Right.
hour of my time. You don't feel bad about this call. I don't feel bad about this
Right.
call. Like, it's
Right.
what the agreement is. And I know with her, it's a
Yeah.
different situation because, like you said, you're not paying her, but someone else is paying her on your behalf.
Right. Right. And that's what I got to continue to remind myself that this is this is the way. Like, I mean, dude, I'm even sitting with Steven this morning asking him to do edits on stuff, feeling bad about asking him to do edits on stuff.
That's ridiculous.
It's a personal thing that I know that because I'm just like, I could have done this myself, moving some words around, like blah blah blah. All day I could have that with my own internal dialogue. So that's where I'm learning and growing. And obviously you on the team is helping me to see those moments that I can really, you're like, no, give that to Emma, no, do that. Like, oh, I can do that. So that, just know that I wrestle with that, but I know it's a really good thing for me to do. So keep pressing.
Yeah, you gotta learn that at the top of the pyramid is a lot of dollar signs tasks,
Hmm.
and down here are the little tasks kind of thing. You
Right.
know what
Right.
I mean? You gotta, and so this stuff down here is not where leaders live. Leaders live up.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you got to
Yep.
understand that in you giving them this stuff, not only is it freeing you up to do this stuff, but it's also enabling them to make that stuff.
Yep.
And that's what you talked about before. You told me when I first started, hey Dustin, I want 1898 to be a company that supports multiple families. That's what it
Yes.
does. That's
Yes.
what does it.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly what
by
does
you
it.
not doing this, you're denying
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. For real. For real.
So don't feel bad about it. I know it's
Yep.
like telling someone not to breathe air. But to a certain
Yeah.
degree,
Yeah.
you're always going to feel bad about it because that's who you are. But I think
And
you
it's learning to lead. It's learning to overcome and lead through those. Right. Like correct. Correct.
80% of your time, if you can afford it, which in your unique situation you can, needs to be up
Yeah.
here. 20% of your time, you can afford 20% of your time being down here to
Hmm.
keep you connected to what the real work looks like, to keep you
Hmm.
humble, to keep you
Hmm.
hungry, to keep a good
Hmm.
work ethic. But
Hmm.
majority of the time, you need to be living up there.
Hmm. Yeah, man. Well, and to the point, like even looking at my Asana for today, going, follow up with Edwin, schedule Outlook Zoom calls, the 2024 Outlook Zoom calls.
Yeah,
Like
I would say
there are
following up with
multiple.
Edwin, probably, especially is Edwin a potential new client? Is that what that is?
Yeah, he's the potential new, but like
That's a you
in
thing.
what I could have, yes, but like in connecting with him, then going, hey, I've attached my, I hate using the word assistant. Maybe that's the problem. Is like I've attached whatever her title is on this email. She'll be able to make sure that we get on the calendar for whatever day. Like I'm even just trying to think through that and future ways of bringing that conversation in so that when she reaches out for the scheduling 24 outlook, it's not weird that this Emma lady just suddenly
Yeah,
popped up with a stone table email address,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
for the most part, if it's scheduling a meeting or a shoot with an existing client, um, it's probably something Emma can do. But it's probably going to take
Hmm.
you communicating to your clients, hey, I have a girl named Emma working for me. If you see an email come through from Emma, it's a week from a standpoint of your green zone for first. If
Hmm.
you have 5 things that only Darren can do for 1898,
Mm.
what is it? What are those 5 things? Then I would say block Monday out for thing one during your green zone time. Block Tuesday. Just begin there. You'll start to find that maybe that's a little bit too much time for this, and I could probably squeeze 2 things in over here. But that's kind of a good starting point.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So
For sure. For
five
sure.
things only Darren can do. Uh,
Uh,
new client follow up, new client and current client follow up. You should be doing that for right now at the size company that you are. Um, and that's going to bring a ton about what your mental space is going to be. That's what time blocks are really good for. You don't want your mental space to go from a networking mindset to a strategy mindset to a development mindset to a, you know what I mean? Like you don't want your mind to be bouncing around in that green zone time as much as possible. It needs to be focused in on one kind of subject of things. You can be working on multiple different clients, right? but it's blocked off
Mhm.
of. So like if I was an, full-time editor, then I would be like, my editing time is my green zone time. So if it's editing, that's when I'm going to do it. So for you, I would say, okay,
Right.
if client follow up, new client, reach out, that type of situation, I have a networking opportunity. It's okay to creep into my green zone, because when you go meet new people, what do you want to be? You want to be Carrie Newhoff's at your best, right?
Right.
So
Right. Right.
obviously, not
Right.
all those things are possible. Not everybody's going to have a get together networking thing from 7 to 11 a.m. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you're going to put that energy there,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you have to.
Yeah.
So,
Totally.
I
Totally.
always batched my stuff. So when I was back at Friendship and I was doing everything, like before I had Sarah come on, Mondays were like admin days for me. I would spend all day Monday doing anything admin that I needed to do. Tuesdays were all like communications days. I had to do anything communications related, I would do it on Tuesdays. Wednesday was Worship Wednesday. If I had to do anything for worship department, I did it on Wednesday. And then Thursday was like a catch up production, kind of catch all day. And then I was off on Fridays. So you're batching like mindedness. It's not about what you're doing with your hands, it's about where your brain is at. So once you
Mhm.
put yourself in that mental headspace, the more you can batch that same mental headspace into the same time zone, the more you'll be able to get done in less amount of time, because your brain isn't having to go, oh well, now I'm editing Darren. Oh well, now I'm networking Darren.
Right.
Or now
Right.
I'm
Right.
I'm
Right. Right. Right.
review Darren, looking at frame.io. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
reviews, like review should be in your yellow zone time. You shouldn't be reviewing anything in your green zone time. You know what I mean? I don't think you should anyway. You might think, oh, that's a lot of
Right.
value, so I can get my editors back. I don't think it's your highest value. I think it's more like a 3 on the
Yeah.
$5 scale.
I would agree.
You know what I mean?
I would agree. I
You
would
don't
agree.
need 100% brain power to look at something. It's going to be second nature for you to look at that and go, fix this, fix that, boom, 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 yada, yada, you're out of there. But thinking and strategizing through, how do I gain 5 new clients this month? You need green zone time for that.
See, those are the things that I'm not doing right now. Right. Like the things
It's
that
your
to grow
calendar
the
owns you,
business. Yeah. It really does.
because you've got
So
all the stuff,
when
and you're changing lanes every 8 seconds, and you're going to a shoot, and you're flying drones, and you're editing things, and you're trying to get stuff to Steven, and you got a meeting here, and like, you have no control
yeah.
over your calendar right now. You get control of it, you'll be able to have focused time to get done what you want to get done.
Okay. So walk me through that then, because I don't want to take too much of your time here. Walk me through that as far as like, because these 5 things, right? Um, some might I don't I might get stuck on some of these, right?
Sure.
But I think creating content is something that only I can do
Content for 1898.
currently for 1898.
Yes. Creating it, not necessarily editing it.
Creating it, not necessarily editing it. You are correct. Not even necessarily scheduling it, right?
Nope.
But creating the content.
Yeah.
Um, New client outreach and client relationship, kind of what we were just talking about. Um, Now I'm number 3. I'm going to throw out and push back on me, but editing and designing are part of the things that I enjoy doing
Uh-huh.
and would be good in those green zones, but aren't necessarily like that's not going to grow the business per se.
That would be where I say, remember I was talking about earlier, I was talking about 80% up here and 20% down here.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's your 20% right there.
That's the 20. Okay.
Because it is
So
low.
don't put this in the
It is.
5.
I don't think it's because it's not something that only you can do. I don't think it goes in the 5.
Only I can do.
That doesn't mean that we don't make time for it.
Correct.
We're just
So you're
saying
saying
It
Only I
there's
can
no,
do.
not Emma, not me, not Steven. Everyone on your team right now, only you can do these things. And it may be 4 things. It may be 8 things. I don't know. Like I'm just saying 5 because there's 5 days in a week.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so however many things it is. But like only you can right now at the size that we're at. Number 1 and number 2, only you can do that.
Right. I'm trying to think of other things that fall into that category that I'm currently doing.
Again, it might not be a green zone thing, but I do think right now only you can uh
Yep, I agree.
projects,
We
video.
don't need to add that into the green zone area, but
No,
right now that's the only one. I am the
you're the
the
gatekeeper.
point of, but yes, that's the word I was looking for.
You're the gatekeeper.
Okay,
So again, this can be a yellow thing. It doesn't have
correct.
to be a green thing, which is great. If we get stuff in here that are like not all green, then you just bought yourself more green zone time.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean? So, and that's
right,
not saying taking easy out, but if like, I mean, these are probably green things.
correct.
This is probably a yellow thing here.
Hmm.
Let's see. What else? What else do we think only Darren can do? Only Darren can create content for the brand. Only Darren can build client relationships with current and new
I mean,
clients.
right now I'm the only one that's shooting. Not that,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like editing, like yes, we have Steven and you in the mix of that, so that's why it's not just me. But right now, unless I hire Steven or somebody else to go do that, that's an easy thing that I could take off my plate eventually. But I also like, that's where design, shooting, and editing are things that I enjoy doing,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't want to work myself out of those in the mix. But I also want to grow a business that, like, to me, growing a sustainable business that makes money for not only myself, but for those 30 plus families that I want to have in my business eventually, right? Like, that's more than me doing an edit, right? Like, as long as I'm involved in that cool video process in some way, shape, or form, you
Right.
know?
You are
Um,
now with number 3. Just because your hand's not on the mouse
correct,
doesn't mean that you're not at
correct,
number
correct.
3 is
And
just
that's where
edit as number 4, 5 is. You know what I mean?
I'm editing through people. I'm not editing myself.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the difference
So,
between maker versus manager.
right, right. And so number 5, which might mix into number 3, but number 5 that sticks out is going to be something along the lines of like, um, you know, pre-production with the client to get the story, to do the story finding, to do the script development, to do those things, like, and getting better at telling the stories and capturing the stories and pulling those out of the clients. Because I think when I do a better job of that at the top level, that begins to be something that I tell a better story through interviewing and getting the pre-production done. The editing with Steven becomes better.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's a high level thing that I need to continue to level up for me, that allows that to grow. So
Let me ask a question on number 1. Is creating content also marketing?
I would call it marketing. Yeah.
Okay. I think so too.
I think that I think the more that you create content, that's the new, I mean, it's the Gary V, right? It's like, I mean, I'm probably going to go all in on LinkedIn this year. I mean, I spent a week on LinkedIn and got a gig out of it within 7 days.
Which is
Like, it
number
was
2.
stupid. Right. So it's like, okay, LinkedIn's where I'm going to go create content for that. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I need to focus on it. I need to do, and again, it goes down to, I got this set up. I can talk to this camera and make it like, dude, I even thought about investing in the Loom high quality piece,
Yeah.
Because literally I could do this into Loom and Steven downloads it, Emma downloads it. Like, like start thinking real quick on this stuff, and not like it needs to be this full-fledged production that's shot on a Blackmagic RAW, like get the content out, man. Let's go. So yeah, you got me. I didn't think of the one thing that's probably the most. Yeah.
So look at this. You got one. Why am I not writing there? 1, 2, 3, 4 green zone pieces. I like having 4 green zone mindsets because it leaves a 5th day for a catch-all.
Catch-all. Yep.
Catch-all, a
Yep.
refresh, a rejuvenate, whatever you need kind of thing. So if
Yep.
you did this, if you started your week out every Monday doing that right there,
Yep.
then on Tuesday you're pushing out some of the stuff that you made here down to these guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then by Wednesday, you're looking ahead 2 or 3 weeks on some shoots that you may have coming up, and you're story developing those things. And then by the end of the week on Thursday, you've got kind of most of the week behind you at this point, 3/5 of the week behind you already, and you can kind of go, but where do I want to go next? That's vision. Now, so then you still have these 2 things up here that you can put in some yellow zone times throughout your week. Now, obviously, luckily for you, excuse me, these are things that are probably going to happen most days. But what you have now is that if these things don't start before 11 a.m., look at how much room you just created by making sure that these things that happen most days are now not happening until here.
Yeah.
Now you can get all of this and all of this done before 11 a.m., 4 days a week.
Yeah, dude. That's
Like, it's doable,
that's
right?
huge. And I've never seen it written out like this, right? Like I've never seen it put together in this way,
Sorry, my
because I
hand.
want to do all of it. So then how do you look at this then, in the sense of like, okay, I love this. What's my next step in this other than just writing it down?
You got to hold yourself to it. You got to print it out. You got to keep it in front of you. You got to make it your wallpaper on your phone, whatever it takes for you to embed this into your mind. In terms of boundaries, in terms of your zones, in terms of like this 11 to 4 thing, the nothing before 11 thing. Otherwise, like, I would literally, for a time, until, I know you hate seeing multiple things on your calendar, but maybe you can come up with like a different color or something. Maybe in Asana, it's a repeating Monday task for this right here. On Tuesdays in your Asana, it's a repeating task every Tuesday for this.
Right.
And now when we're looking, like if you're doing the full focus thing and you're looking ahead at your week, like these are going to be some big 3 pieces for your week most weeks, because you're going to be like, man, I got a lot of new clients I need to follow up with, or I've got a
Right.
lot of old clients that I haven't talked to in a while. That's going to be one of my big 3
Right.
this.
Right.
You're going to see all that stuff
Right.
out in your Asana. So it doesn't have to be calendar. That's the beauty of Asana. Maybe it just goes in your Asana, not in your calendar. Because that's where the getting done happens anyway, right?
100%. But I do think I need to probably, at least for the next, like, it doesn't need to repeat forever and always, but maybe for the next handful of months, I need to have it blocked out in my calendar this way. Like 7 to 11
Yes.
is blocked out. And then when I go in to put a meeting at 8:30, I go,
You go, no? Yeah. So I did this when I first read the At Your Best by Carey Nieuwhof. So if I had like if this was my day on my calendar, right, and you're looking at this kind of like hour by hour thing over here on the side, and you're seeing all the different, I got a meeting here and I've got a meeting here, whatever. I was looking at it going, I literally would shade off, like if this was 7 and this was 11 or whatever, I would shade all this off, and I colored it green on my calendar.
Mm.
And then I would shade all this off right here, and I colored it yellow on my calendar. And then I had that little 1 hour of green, I would shade it green. And so as stuff's getting added to my calendar, I would go, I can't do that there. I'm red. I'm red as it gets. And I need to be green. I need to be at least yellow. You know what I mean?
What did you do that on a paper, or is that?
No, I did that on my calendar, like my iCal. Like,
Oh, nice.
here, I'll show you real quick. Here's calendar. So on here, let me get out of my own way so I can see things. So I would literally, I had a green zone, red zone, and yellow zone calendars that I made.
Nice.
And then I go, hey, for every day from 7, to 11, and I just called it
Green.
green zone, all caps like that, so I knew it wasn't an actual thing. And then I colored it green.
Right. You had the color and made that happen.
I had,
Yeah.
and then I set it to repeat Monday through Friday. So then as I'm standing back looking at my week, I can go, that's in that zone. I don't like that. And I would pull it.
Yep.
Until it became a habit. Now it's habit for me. I know my zones, so I don't need it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I gotta get.
I love it, bro.
I don't know if you can hear my toddler screaming upstairs.
I hear him having a ball.
I'm
dude.
scared to
No,
whatever I'm about to go up to.
Go check the mail.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go check the mail.
Go, wow,
this is genius.
What's this?
It's genius. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Dude,
it's so good.
Have a great day tomorrow. Keep me posted on how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do. And I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Talk soon.